This is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Guzape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seats and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your #1 choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on NigComSat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London.
Daybreak Africa is your one-stop top-notch breakfast show that brings you all the interesting stories happening in and around Africa.
Because we have all the morning essentials,
including the latest news, sports, weather, and events.
And of course, the people.
Daybreak Africa on Television Nigerian.
Weekdays, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m.
It is another beautiful morning, and it is our delight to welcome you on your one-stop Daybreak show on Television Nigeria. This is Daybreak Africa. My name is Elvis Oga. Many thanks for joining us.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Elvis Oga. My name is Mercy Joe.
Good morning, Mercy.
Yes, I'm sure we all had a pleasant night rest.
I can see you are radiating like someone who actually had enough rest
because
of the night.
I actually did. So, lots of things are happening.
True.
Like Susan said, it seems like Monday got filled up with lots of news rather than the weekend. Okay, WHO suspending chloroquine.
Yeah.
The chloroquine trial, saying that the treatment, which was once in circulation and then because of some lapses, had to actually stop being in circulation. And then the reason being that patients that are tested of COVID-19 and they can't use this chloroquine because if they have pending illness
or health issues
before now, it will be impossible for it to actually work for them. Rather, it will cause them more harm. So it's a treatment that cannot go for everybody. So that's why they are suspending the treatment.
That's the shortcoming on the side of chloroquine. Initially, like you rightly analyzed or rightly pointed out, when the first cases of COVID-19 was actually going around the world, we saw that chloroquine was considered as one of the drugs that could be used, and then at the long run, it had to be shoved out because of such complications you just talked about.
Yes.
But interestingly, to an extent, the likes of Donald Trump were said to have been using it, and the government from Nigeria came out to say it was what they use in treating him, that he's not advising everybody to use it, but he cannot lie about what was used on him. But basically what we saw from the head of research of WHO yesterday, the person of Dr. Brian was saying it was out of the abundance of caution that they decided to show it, and then they will carry out more clinical analysis on the chloroquine to see if it can still be used.
Yes, I think my final conclusion is like a relook in the composition of the chloroquine and see how it can affect positively both the people that has outstanding underlying health factors and the ones that actually have. So I think we can come to a conclusion that probably the reason why they said some people actually died after using the chloroquine was because they were not in the awareness that they had. They know about it, and because the mixture of chloroquine and then probably other of their drugs again can cause
reactions, allergy, develop allergy, and several other things.
Exactly.
Well, like you said, there are a whole lot of controversy trailing the way WHO has been handling the pandemic on the whole. So if you go through the comment section of that particular story, you see different people reacting to it, accusing people of one or two things. But basically, let's see how we can go about this whole thing and then fight the pandemic to a standstill. Yes,
but we're happy at least they have looked into the chloroquine, and we're not seeing the result of why they're saying do not just use chloroquine like that, because what works for one system may not work for another, so they have to come to a final conclusion of what will work for everyone's system. All right, a look at INEC releasing policy for conducting elections during COVID-19 for Edo State and Ondo State.
Ordinarily, when we were looking at the reality of having elections being conducted during the lockdown or amidst COVID-19, people were trying to look at how we could manage the situation at hand and then have other sectors of the life or every other aspect of the life to go line in line. Recall sometimes when we were talking about how well do we forge ahead with the situation at hand, we were like, we don't think COVID-19 is anything that we're going to phase out anytime soon. So I think the whole world is trying to wake up to the reality to see how we can be doing other life activities alongside this. When I remember vividly in your words, when you were like, I think we need to learn how to live with the virus for the time being. So INEC releasing a timetable. I think we want to see the guidelines that are put out so that every other gains that have been recorded with the lockdown and everything will not be defeated or compromised at the cost of conducting elections. But interestingly, Edo and Ondo State are the states we're looking at for elections to be conducted. And there are a whole lot of drama coming in from this state, particularly Edo State, where we've seen the ruling All Progressive Congress resorting to direct primaries where every card-carrying member is allowed to go and vote, but some people are kicking against this and resorting to indirect primaries. So these are some of the intricacies we need to look
because INEC is saying that they are a work body as well, so they have to work as well, and they cannot allow the pandemic slow down the progress of their work because these governorship elections have to be carried out. So now they are looking at elections in Ondo holding in September, and then in Edo State holding in October. Although there are still other states, I think Plateau and 3 other states that actually still have some re-elections to carry out. And some of the policy guidelines that the INEC released was that enforcement of physical distancing. They say they will make sure physical distancing is really being applied when these elections come forth. They talked about voluntary COVID-19 testing for INEC staffs. They also talked about disinfection of smart card readers after the fingerprint of each voter is read. Evaluation of all election activities, updates and strict implementation and tracking of performance over time, strategic consultation with stakeholders.
Regardless of how we look at it, you can see that INEC has actually taken into consideration every other thing, and for them to lay down these guidelines, it's actually a good one from their angle.
I think they're ready for it.
But it's not. Let's not just stop at bringing out these guidelines, but let's see steps that are on ground to
Exactly.
see that these guidelines are fully implemented and are fully followed,
Yes.
so that we don't get more than what we bargained
And
for.
you're asking the federal government to make them as essential workers
So
as well.
if we are very close to that time where they need to go, I think that's just the very needed thing or the needful thing to be done,
Yeah.
so that they don't get harassed by made to enforce the guidelines of the
True.
gradual easing of the lockdown.
True. So Nigeria recorded 229 new cases yesterday, bringing the total to 8,068 cases in Nigeria. Out of that 8,000 plus cases, we have about 5,000 plus active cases still in Nigeria. However, we have 233 deaths, and we have 2,000 plus recoveries already in Nigeria.
You remember when we were talking about the percentage of the cases regarding active cases,
Yes.
Discharge, and then death, and we're
Yeah.
looking at 97.3.
I think we're still on that path.
But the way the death rate or the fatality is going these days, we might actually shift out of the 3%, which we're saying it's a bit considerate or it's minimal to an extent, even though we give regards to every life that has been. But you see, as of last week, we're still talking about 200 deaths, and then before over the weekend, it rose to 233. So
Yes.
if for 3 months we had only 200 deaths, and then in a space of days we have 33,
3 more.
I think it's called for
Cause
concern.
for concern, actually. So this is going a long way to still a review of various measures, different states. You know, the measure a particular state will take will be different from another state because severity depends. This state can be like Oyo that is dealing with 200 plus cases now. They're reviewing their measures. If they were on an eased lockdown, a complete eased lockdown, most of them are rethinking now to go back to a complete lockdown.
Okay.
So it depends on the state and how they want to take their measures. But regardless, we should do it in a way that benefits both the masses, the economy. The masses, the economy.
The struggle between keeping
Exactly.
livelihood and keeping life.
Exactly.
Like, we
So
look at it
that's
always.
just what we see here, because it looks like we're using the same measure and expecting a different result.
Okay, Susan is right here looking all serious, waiting to give us what's in the news for the day. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Good
Yes,
morning.
Good morning, Mercy. I can't cope with this mouse this morning.
You're-
Literally blinding me.
you were trying to tell us how so many news were up
Yeah, a lot of
last night,
things.
Yeah.
Yes.
even way more than
The weekend.
And so just while I wait your appetite, we'll go straight to the news desk to get
All
more
right.
details.
Thank
Okay.
you, Susan.
Good morning and welcome to AM News. I am Susan Achin. The World Health Organization said on Monday it had temporarily suspended clinical trials of hydroxychloroquine as a potential treatment for COVID-19 being carried out across a range of countries as a precautionary measure. The decision came after the publication last week of a study in the Lancet indicating that using the drug on COVID-19 patients could increase their likelihood of dying, WHO Chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus told a virtual press conference. Tedros said that's the executive group of the so-called Solidarity Trial, in which hundreds of hospitals across several countries have enrolled patients to test several possible treatments for the novel coronavirus, had as a precaution suspended trials using that drug. The other arms of the trial are continuing, he stressed. Now, Thailand is conducting tests on macaque monkeys as it races to produce a cheaper alternative coronavirus vaccine it hopes will be ready by 2021, a top researcher said on Monday. More than 100 candidates' vaccines are currently in various stages of development around the world, at least 8 of which are in clinical trials with humans, according to the World Health Organization. Oxford University researchers are considered the front runners in the race, starting clinical trials last month on a version based on a different virus that causes infections in chimpanzees. The testing phase on the macaque monkeys comes after trials on mice were successful, researchers said. COVID-19 cases in Nigeria increased further on Monday, with 229 cases reported by the country, despite efforts by authorities to flatten the curve of the pandemic. The new cases were confirmed by the specialist agency, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, on Twitter. This takes the country's total infections to 8,068, out of which 2,311 have been discharged, with 233 losing their lives. Data from the NCDC showed that the cases were spread across 14 states and the FCT, with Lagos accounting for the highest number of infections for the day, with 90 cases. The federal government on Sunday evacuated 69 Nigerian citizens who were stranded in Lebanon. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyema, who made the announcement via his official Twitter handle, said they were evacuated with the support of the Lebanese government and the Lebanese community in Nigeria. Those evacuated include 50 female victims of trafficking and 19 other persons who were stranded in Lebanon. The Kano State Governor Abdullahi Ganduje has put down 300 inmates from his correctional facilities in the state. This is part of activities to mark this year's Eid al-Fitr celebration. Governor Ganduje, who paid a visit to the Goron-Dutse prison facility, said the gesture is part of the ongoing decongestion exercise to curb the spread of COVID-19. According to him, over the last 2 months, Kano State has released 603 inmates based on the presidential directive to decongest the correctional centers. The freed inmates later received 5,000 naira for transportation back to their homes. President Muhammadu Buhari and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, have commiserated with the media industry, particularly Nigeria Union of Journalists and Nigeria Guild of Editors, over the passing of Mr. Wahid Bakari, the Saturday editor of New Telegraph. In different statements on Monday, the President and the Speaker condoled with the late journalist's family. The President described the editor's death as a collective loss to the media and the nation that he served passionately with his talent. Now, about 1,613 houses at the Muna Garage Internally Displaced Persons Camp in Maiduguri have been gutted by fire. 2 persons who sustained severe burns died from their wounds. Chairperson of the Borno State Emergency Management Agency, Yabawa Kolo, said the incident happened on the eve of the Eid al-Fitr. Governor Babagana Zulum has visited the camp to ascertain the level of destruction caused by the fire. Now moving on to the entertainment scene, Joy Tungu, Cynthia Morgan's former manager, has released an official statement following the allegations against her and Jude Okoye. In the lengthy statement, she revealed that the singer left Northside Music Record on her own accord without facing resistance, even though her contract had not expired. Tungu also stated that contrary to what Morgan led people to believe, she was taken care of by the label unit until she decided to leave and start her own imprint. Meanwhile, Jude Okoye has also come out to refute the allegations leveled against him by the singer that he restricted her from using her name, further stating that Cynthia was still in control of her social media accounts 2 years after she left the label. And that's it on AM News. I am Susan Achin.
Like you rightly pointed, a lot of news actually in the media.
Yes.
For us to talk about.
We talk about the 1,613 houses at IDP camps
gutted
by fire.
That's quite strange.
Quite strange, and how 1,000,
That's
not 10,
a large number.
not 5.
Somebody was trying to bring a funny perspective to the whole pandemic story, and he was like, it seems the pandemic came with a whole lot of fire incidents.
Yes, because we've been hearing several incidences of fire. I think in one of these countries, yesterday we were talking about it, where
Even in Nigeria, we know how many offices.
the offices are just,
FCT.
I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact that people are locked down in their homes and there might be electrical malfunctioning.
Or maybe stress on the electrical appliances due to the continued state at
But
home.
not casualties.
Yeah, so
No
it's a
casualties.
good thing, and I hope that they can look into that one and
The
make the
problem here
investigations.
is we're talking about internally displaced
Yes.
persons trying to
Yes.
put up somewhere, and then
And then
where
finally
the only place they have now,
what
gets
what
bigger.
What
they
next?
request
Where
to
can
do?
they
And
want
how
to know?
fast will the government be able to provide somewhere else for them to put their head?
move into.
Then
And
President Muhammad Buhari condoling with the family of the late pressman, a late journalist. There's something I've noticed with the president, and actually he has had love for this for the press people. If you look at some of his media aid on publicity and all the people that are actually active in service,
Very
writing-
active, actually.
writing for magazines. We
Yeah.
don't know where Femi Adesina was
Came
before
from before.
he was appointed and all. But
He actually follows
yeah.
pattern and process, before he appoints people.
True.
Like we see in the case of the new chief of staff as well.
Yes.
So lots of procedures.
Our heart goes out to the family of
Yes.
deceased.
Our
condolences
condolences
to-
go to. And
Okay,
then
let's take a look at the Thailand.
Thailand.
Trying to use
marking monkeys for COVID-19.
Yes.
And they said it's before now, they've actually been trying to see something like that, using those monkeys to get vaccines,
If
even
you-
for Ebola at a point in
If
time.
you know Thailand very well, or if you've actually been following their stories, you know that they are one country that actually do well with animal
Animals,
production.
yes.
Like places like Bangkok and all of that. I used to have a lecturer way back in school that was basically doing so many researches in that. But we have to look at it from the angle of where we need to take into consideration the animal right,
Yes.
so that the necessary procedures are being followed, so that we don't have people who are responsible to be advocating for animal rights come out to clamp on,
See
to clamp
that.
on the authorities
So that-
and all.
Because they actually said they've been doing some trials on mice and they
Yes.
worked out, and so they are going on to do this one to see if they
For
can get
monkeys.
cheaper,
By
vaccine.
2021.
By 2021, that's very
And I know
cool.
so many Africans will be like, so they actually have something like this. They can actually do trials on, and they're thinking of doing
Using
trials
humans.
on Africans. in Asia.
African humans for that matter. So it's good that because these monkeys, they're closer species, to humans. So when they try it out, whatever works, we can now agree that okay, there's probably some link with
Possibility.
humans, and there's possibility that it might work on humans as well.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Gandhi J pardoning 300
300
inmates.
The spirit of Salah.
Yeah, the Salah actually,
Yeah.
you know how it used to happen back in the days when there are celebrations, people go out, officials go out to release people,
reach
as
out
part
to
of
people,
reach out to those.
So it's
Yeah.
part of it.
300,
And also-
that's quite a number.
Yes,
Yes.
and they say they've about 603 inmates have already been released. Entertaining that they will give them money for transportation.
Basically, when
So,
we look
it's
at
a good thing as well.
prison decongestion, there are a whole lot of issues surrounding it,
Yeah.
where people are awaiting trial and they are being kept there
Without
being
trial
tried and
also.
all of
Yes.
that. So
Some people, they just have, do you know there are people that their issue is just who to bail them?
No,
For
one to wait.
sums as
Yes.
small as 5,000 naira, so people are still there.
Some
because-
can be there till a year
I mean,
because
they
of
just
that
don't
money,
have
and
anybody to
nobody,
bail
and
them,
some don't
and
even
they're not-
have people. Some are not. Some their family members are not even aware
Yes.
that they were there.
Yes.
And
So
it's
it's-
true. You're
it's
just
a-
thinking
it's a good
something
one.
has
I
happened
think
to
it's
them.
just- It's a good one. We need to look at it from. It's not just
Different
being,
angles,
Yeah,
yes.
it's not just being all about releasing these people. They have to be rehabilitated so that they can be accepted back into the society
Yeah.
and they go about their normal.
Yeah,
Probably
so
also
they're not
put
just
them
released,
on-
actually. They should
yeah.
be put somewhere first, and then before they can be released.
Sure,
from
probably try
members of
to
society.
get some kind of vocational training for them to
Mm.
have
To
skills
engage
to
them.
engage them, so
So
they
that
get
they do
busy
not
and
go
don't
back
go
to their
back to their old way.
times.
Thank you, Susan.
Always a pleasure. And we now go across Africa for some more news. Stay with us.
This is Africa on Daybreak Africa. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa on Saturday said a controversial ban on the sale of alcohol will be lifted for home consumption when the country moves into level 3 of 5-tier coronavirus lockdown next month. At least 40,000 people could die from coronavirus in South Africa by the end of the year, according to projections made by a group of academics and health experts warning the government. The country had implemented one of the world's most stringent lockdowns after recording its first coronavirus-related death in March. The South African government banned the sale of tobacco and alcohol as part of a broad lockdown. In addition, the regulations banned jogging and dog walking and sheltered parks. The boost ban was meant to prevent a spike in violence and reduce pressure on emergency wards as hospitals geared up to face a virus that has affected at least 22,583 people across the country and killed 429, according to Johns Hopkins. Now, Burundi's ruling party candidate won a presidential election held last week, securing 68.72% of the votes, the Electoral Commission said on Monday. Evariste Ndayishimiye, a retired general, will take over from President Pierre Nkurunziza after he beat the main opposition candidate Agathon Rasa and 5 others, avoiding a runoff by securing more than 50% of the vote. Now, General Ndayishimiye, 52, is expected to succeed President Pierre Nkurunziza, who has been in power since 2005, had decided not to stand for a 4th term and had dubbed him his heir. The main opposition candidate Agathon Rasa, president of the National Council for Liberty, has already described these results as fanciful and accused the government of cheating and pure manipulation. U.S. Treasury Secretary Shin has rejected plans by the African Development Bank's board to end an investigation into its president, Akinwumi Adesina, and called for an independent probe into allegations against him. In a letter dated May 22 and addressed to Niale Kaba, a chairwoman of the bank's board of governors, Mushin said the Treasury disagrees with finding by the bank's ethics committee that totally exonerated Adesina. Kaba confirmed receipt of document and declined further comments. The intervention by the Treasury, the AFDB's biggest non-African shareholder, comes 2 weeks after the Ethics Committee found no evidence to support allegation of favoritism by Adesina. The 60-year-old bank chief, who has repeatedly refuted the allegation, is the only candidate up for election as president at an annual general meeting scheduled for August. We have deep reservations about the integrity of the committee's process, Muchin said. Instead, we urge you to initiate an in-depth investigation of the allegations using the services of an independent outside investigator of high professional standing. The U.S. Treasury didn't immediately respond to an email request for comments. 8 suspected terrorists were killed and 38 captured in a joint operation by forces from Burkina Faso and the Ivory Coast near the country's border. 24 men caught in Burkina Faso and 14 in Ivory Coast were handed to intelligence services, a source at Ivorian Army headquarters said. A terrorist base was destroyed in Alidougou in Burkina. The operation also seized arms, ammunition, USB keys, and mobile phones. Operation Camel, named after a river that flows through the two countries, was launched in early May, the source said. He praised the perfect coordination between the two armies. The joint operation, described on Saturday by the army's commanders as the first of its kind, took place northeast of the Ivorian town of Frekasodougou and south of Banfora in Burkina Faso. On Saturday, a source from Burkina Faso security said the entire operation had been carried out in Ivory Coast. Locals say the fighting took place around the villages of Tinadala and Diambe in the northeast of Ivory Coast and that there was a considerable military presence. After 28 days without any new case of coronavirus, Mauritius recorded 2 cases on Sunday. The 29 Mauritius, including 3 babies, who were repatriated from India on 9 May on a special Air Mauritius flight. The development comes 2 weeks after Health Minister Kalish Jakupata said that the island nation had won the battle against COVID-19, although he added that the war against the virus was still on. Prime Minister Pravin Jagannathan will this week address the nation on the ongoing sanitary curfew, which has been extended to 1st June. Only people with special permits have been allowed to move around free. Other activities have been banned unless deemed essential. Meanwhile, more than 3,000 Mauritius stuck abroad have appealed to the government to bring them back. The authorities say they are preparing to repatriate its nationals from India, Madagascar, and Australia. However, those working on cruise ships feel they are being left out. Human rights activists in Egypt have criticized the pardon given by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to a former police officer convicted of killing a Lebanese singer in Dubai in 2008. Mohsen al-Sukari was among thousands of prisoners given a presidential pardon to mark the celebration of Eid. He was originally sentenced to death, but this was commuted to 28 years in prison in 2010. The business tycoon convicted of paying him to kill the pop singer Suzanne Tamini was pardoned in 2017. Several Egyptian activists have questioned why al-Zakuri should be released when many others jailed for their views or political activity remain in jail. Now that is the much we have for you on News Across Africa. Daybreak Africa continues shortly.
It's still Daybreak on Nigeria, and we'd like to say many thanks for sticking around. And if you just joined us, welcome on board. You're just listening to News Across Africa there. I will now take you over to our newspaper review segment for some headlines across different national dailies in the country.
Yes, let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper this morning. How cost poor services mar virtual schools cuts orders. Experts seek power sector reforms to boost operations. Nigeria needs about 40 digital devices post-COVID-19. Why virtual seating cannot apply in all court cases. Close to the picture nameplate. Investors torn between debt, forex market as Naira weakens. That's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Wow. Still below the picture nameplate, we have INEC wants government to declare election essential service. We talked about that earlier this morning. That's also on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper, so you might want to get the Guardian newspaper to
taking a look at the banner headline there, attributing the cost and poor service to the reason why virtual schools and court and others have been proving difficult
because
if you recall that ever since COVID-19, people have actually resorted to virtual way of doing things. Like most of the meetings we've had from government parastatals, ministries, and then agencies or departments as well has been held online. But from this part of the world, we're complaining about the cost of data and then the services, how good the services are.
Yes, so this is where the communication companies are also coming in to play a very vital role. And even the INEC wanting government to declare election essential service. We talked about that earlier in the
concern for the day.
Okay,
let's take a look at headlines from the Nation newspaper. We have WHO suspends COVID-19 chloroquine treatment trial. Below that, we have INEC OK's e-voting from 2021. Above the nameplate, we have GDP grew by 87% in first quarter, says NBS. Lagos and federal government working on schools reopening. And from the world of sports, Igalo heads for Man United exit this week. When we saw that story about Igalo yesterday, it attracted mixed reactions from people, because most people would have loved to see me, especially Nigerians, that were kind of happy to see their brother play for a club as big as Manchester United. But unfortunately, it was a loan deal, so he has exhausted his loan term and is about going back to his parent club in China.
In China?
Okay. She's in China.
Okay, let's move to the Daily Sun newspaper. On the headline there, heads to roll over federal government's leaked memo. Presidency moves against saboteurs. Officials involved to face sack, says HOS. That's on page 6 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Foods to prevent COVID-19 by WHO, says diet will also facilitate recovery from pandemic. Talking about diet. Emeka of 4 donates 48.5 million naira hospital beds to Abut. We can see the picture nameplate here. Service commanders in Rivers State with Governor Wike during Eid el-Fitr visit to the governors in Port Harcourt. And still below the picture nameplate, 50 trafficked Nigerian girls, 19 others arrive Abuja from Lebanon.
That caught my attention because yesterday on the program, Yumi and Society actually talked about human trafficking. We brought some NGOs that came to talk about it. NGO who have had first-hand interface with some of those
girls that have been trafficked and they had to bring back to the country. Well, that's on page 8 of the Daily Sun newspaper. Still beside that, suspended Ekiti kingmaker is threatened to sue. That's from Fire Me. That's also on page 5 of the Daily Sun newspaper. 2019 presidential poll. Wike releases 450 million naira to victims of military onslaughts in River State. That's on page 27.
I saw that earlier on as well. Let's talk about the decision of the president or government, head of government, to probe people who have actually leaked memo. This is not the first time it has happened. And just yesterday we were talking about people from the same arm of the government in the same administration coming to disagree on many things at different times, which actually calls for concern. And for this to happen, I think it's high time the president or the people that are supposed to look into it, because you recall that the speech president gave to ease the lockdown was alleged to be leaked. That Femi Adesina was actually talking about who did that, and he called them the enemy of state.
Yes,
and president has actually called them saboteurs in this case.
Saboteurs.
So I think they need to face a very stiff penalty to serve as detriment.
They need to bring these people to book and let them face it.
Okay, still coming from the newspaper review, we have these headlines from the Punch newspaper. FG screening 19 Nigerian firms for COVID-19 drug. Ministry asks companies to submit samples to NAFDAC, and the coronavirus has spread to 16 of our 20 local governments, says Ogun. Above the nameplate, we have INEC plans to start electronic voting in 2021. That story is on the page 14 of the Punch newspaper. And then federal government evacuates 69 stranded and trafficked Nigerians from Lebanon. That story can be found on page 7. And on page 20, you will find 10 power plants idle, generation sinks to 2,627 megawatts, talking about power generation.
Power generation in the country. Okay. Let's take a look at the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. The main headline here, INEC releases 10 COVID-19 rules for next elections. That's on page 5. Still below that, how Edo, Ondo, Guba elections ordered by it will be affected. Let's look at police arrest cemetery workers in possession of 5 human skulls. I think that's on page 29, in case you want to have a look at that. Why Nigeria is at risk of infectious disease outbreaks. Want health security strengthened, speaks on Ibadan firm herd immunity. What high rate of fatalities in Europe is telling Nigeria. Explains difference between COVID-19 and malaria. That's on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper.
Okay, let's take a look at headlines from the Daily Times. Declining GDP, that article can be found on page 2. And then we have recession looms as Nigeria's economy grows marginally by 1.87%. Agriculture, ICT, major non-oil contributors in Q1 of 2020. Experts urge federal government to direct credit facilities to critical sectors of economy. NECA projects economic contraction in Q2 of 2020. Below the picture story, Kaduna will jail parents who enroll children into our Almajiri system. That is coming from El-Rufai. And that story is on page 8 of the Daily Times. And then on page 10, you have reduced poverty in Delta. That is coming from Governor Okowa.
Okay, moving forward, the Business Day newspaper. In fresh assault on top African CEOs, Trump turns gaze on additional. That's on page 6 of the Business Day newspaper. Beside that, that's under the picture nameplate, Nigeria's power infrastructure to get urgent makeover. As Buhari orders payment to Siemens, lack of discipline to enforce comply with market rules could threaten projects. That's coming from experts, and that's also on page 6 of the Business Day newspaper. Beside that, why inclusion of all countries is critical in global race for COVID-19 vaccine. That's on page 2 of the Business Day newspapers.
Okay, and now a quick look at the Daily Trust that shows headlines like self-medication worsening our problems. That is coming from patients. And then my husband asked me to take chloroquine. Pharmacists, patent stores making brisk business. Federal government health workers, health experts worried. And then below the picture story, you have stories like Nigeria's economy records 1.87% growth in first quarter. That is coming from NBS, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. And then how Gambari is faring in Aso Rock is on page 22 of the Daily Trust. Benue communities resume hostilities. A side one from Benue there, and that story can be found on page 10 of the Daily Trust.
So that's it for the newspaper review this morning. Talking about banks and lack of social distancing in banks. Despite some banks putting out canopies outside the building for people to sit down, they give them tags. Okay, you're number 1 to 30. You'll be under the canopy. Most of them putting on their face masks. But then you can still see people going very close to the gates,
and then being
closer together,
clumsy together, being close contact and all that.
Yes.
If you recall, when the lockdown was gradually eased that first time, banks were one of the sectors or industry that actually attracted the serious concern initially.
Serious concern.
We remember government officials coming out to talk about how most of the branches were not open, that made people to be so compacted into each other in some of the few branches that were open. I know you have a package for us on that.
So we'll go to we are launching our package on lack of social distancing at the banks. So let's see how that went.
This lockdown, it add additional suffering to Nigeria. Honestly, the way I'm seeing the thing, the way it's being handling. If you look at Nigeria, we have grown above all these things. You see, when we were locked down, if we really want to mean what we are doing, at least from house to house you carry out tests. But there was nothing like that. Even the money they say they are giving to people, the palliative or whatever, we are all aware it doesn't reach all the people. If you go to places like when we're talking about Italy and other part of the world, they locked them down. They were giving them food and they were okay.
Yes, sir, but right now they did not give. So what did you learn from it in general? What did you learn? Lessons?
To me, the lesson I learned, what I would say, I don't think I learned any lesson as such. You were talking about lesson. The lesson I learned now is suffering now.
Yes, sir, before the lockdown, since we are going normal, right? Before the lockdown, since we are going normal.
Since we are going normal, even though the government were not meeting up our need, we were struggling, especially for those who are earning daily pay. Think about it. A lot of those who are not in government, they pay schedule. Think about the suffering.
Where do you work?
I work in the bank. Let me give you an instance in the bank. I work as a banker. They told us we should resume. I don't know what is wrong with the CBN. They opened few branch. Some of the branches in the Abuja town, they were not open. I want to ask. Now crowd, even in Maraba, not the crowd of the people that are coming to those banks in one bank. Imagine a bank, you open only 3 branches. What about the crowd? What if you open the whole branch and people, we are talking about social distance. How do you observe social distance? And we've been working there, we have not had any case of coronavirus. So that's why the people are saying this thing is calm. Crowd of people, nobody fall down and whatever. We are just sanitizing our hands. If you can open each branch, like now, look at what they are doing here now. What are they checking? If you don't have nose cover, what has nose cover got to do with coronavirus? Can it prevent? We shake, we do a lot of, we touch money and do other things. Imagine. So we should, that's why people don't believe in this coronavirus. Some people say it's a scam.
Do you believe in coronavirus?
I never see any patient.
Do you believe in coronavirus?
It is not the way they are exaggerating things. So it makes me not to believe it.
Okay, how's your wife?
My wife is fine.
Okay, so before the lockdown, how much do you used to give her to prepare food?
Before the lockdown, I still give her normal, but things are not really easy.
So now during the lockdown, how much do you give?
During the lockdown, I give her more.
More during the lockdown?
Wow. You know why?
Why?
My children are not going to school again. And I'm the only one going out. So the transport from my children and that thing, I give her. I'm talking about but what about other people that doesn't have? I will even say I prefer the lockdown.
You prefer the
lockdown? Than to tell us to come out now. Look at what we are. Me, since I was not trek.
Can you repeat what you said now?
I say I will even prefer the lock us down.
Thank you, sir.
Than this trek. See the suffering now?
Thank you, sir. So you are telling
Okay, you've seen for yourself our package on strict creed on social distancing not being adhered at various bank branches in the country. And we were actually enjoying the man that was interviewed.
Yeah,
he had some valid points.
Yes, he has learned.
I'm so happy with the way he was able to link most of his points together.
Yes, and he actually seemed like a happy man despite the situation that we're facing in the country now.
But one may begin to wonder, when we were on total lockdown, people were clamoring for the ease of the lockdown. Now the ease of the lockdown is here, and people are saying they
prefer the lockdown, that it's better. And then he made a valid point. He talked about that when they were on complete lockdown, they were expecting us to see a situation where they would do house-to-house testing, but that didn't happen. And you see, it still calls for worry to ask how these entities here actually testing people, going about their testing. Are they just, now from a state, how many people have they successfully tested in a state? And one would actually be probably disappointed with the amount of people they have tested.
No,
in states.
you cannot really blame them totally, because they were complaining of shortages of reagent and test kits globally. That's why you see that we've resorted to local manufacturing of some of those reagents that actually.
But the thing is that they haven't actually come out now to say that is the reason why they are still doing low testing, because they give an estimate of how many people they would have tested, but still we're still seeing below 18,000. But they haven't said, okay, this is the reason why we are still below 18,000 people being tested in the nation.
Okay, I believe the authorities are watching. Nigerians want to know why we are recording this low number of tests. So if you can come out and tell Nigerians, they will appreciate it.
We would all appreciate that. Okay, let's go to Amazing Africa and launch our package on a visit to Benin Republic.
Yes, let me tell you about a small but very beautiful country in West Africa. It's situated right here, between Togo, Burkina Faso, Nigeria and Niger. It's the birthplace of voodoo, which is still an official religion in the country today. It has a rich history, with some shocking and sad stories to be told as well. But we will get to that later. First stop is Ganvier in Lake Nukoué. Over 20,000 people live on the water here, which makes Ganvier probably the largest lake village in Africa. It all started in the 16th or 17th century, when the Tofinu people were looking for a safe place. They were running from being captured and shipped away as slaves. The name Ganvier means we survived. The main income nowadays comes from trading and fishing. And I bet you won't be surprised that people here are often called watermen. On this lake you need to do everything by boat, so the fathers have one boat, the mothers have another one, and the children have one to go to school. So an ordinary family would have 3 boats. Oh really? This is the Lover's Street, so young people come here and then they meet each other. I mean, it's obviously a river, but that's what they consider a street. They shipped in sand to build the mosque on, so not everything is on poles here, but if you see sand, they brought it in manually. This little Venice of Africa is truly unique and absolutely worth a visit if you make it to Benin. This one is the first cathedral of West Africa, and over there is where we're going, Temple of Pythons. They used to farm in this place, and here was a huge forest with a lot of pythons in it. And at some point the locals realized that the pythons were actually protecting the crops from small animals who would be eating them. And then they started to worship the pythons, and that's why they built this temple. No, perfect. A lot of them inside. Every evening they open this door and the snakes can go out to eat or lay eggs, come back. And sometimes they don't. But if locals around here find them, they will always bring them back. If you're afraid of snakes though, I would suggest maybe you get a hotel in another part of the town. Only a few centuries ago, this country developed the biggest slave port in the whole of Africa. I want to understand what happened. So we follow the route of the slaves, starting at one of the forts. This Portuguese fort, or the Fort of St. John, was used by the slave traders. Slaves were kept in chains. There was no way you could escape.
You would assume that cannons like this are here. Actually, it was the other way. Slaves who were held here on the inside tried to escape. This was the threat for them.
And if a cannon was not enough to scare you off, there was also a pit with crocodiles, so you would kind of be eaten alive.
16th century to 19th century. That's 3 centuries.
It's easy to overlook this square, but it has a great historical importance because this is the place where actually the slave market was held for 3 centuries. So people from all over the place were brought here, and then there would be a negotiation about the price. And after that they were brought to a place a bit further where they were held for 2 weeks to see how strong they were.
Okay, in Fongbe, so in 4 language, it means not in. After buying the slaves at the market, 2 weeks before travel here, they put them in that building. That building normally should contain 200 people, more, at most 200, but they put 600 people in that building. They sleep one over the other, and 2/3 of that amount, 2/3 of that 600 died before the end of, because they spent 2 weeks like that without eating, without water, without no light inside the room.
If slaves survived all of these hardships, they had to walk this long road all the way to the beach. There, ships would be waiting for them, to take them away.
Once you would be past this point, there was no hope of ever returning again, unless your spirit would return after you die.
That was our package on Amazing Africa, and it was all about a visit to Benin Republic, where we saw a whole lot of interesting things we can take away from Benin.
Yeah, so I'm sure some people will be thinking about visiting Benin Republic probably after the pandemic now.
I saw the wildlife, which we are so not comfortable
No,
with.
nada.
And then I don't know. Very sadly, we were reminded of
the
slave
slaves.
trade.
And how the crocodiles could remind them not to try to escape from where they were. If not, they would
as much as
eaten.
we're saying, unfortunately or sadly, that we're reminded of the slave trade, but presently we have our own improvised way of enslaving ourselves.
Yes.
And
Trafficking.
we're talking about, which is
Mostly
being
of
referred to
girls.
as modern day slavery.
True.
We need to come to a place where we see ourselves as our brother's keeper. And yesterday was Africa Day. And President Muhammadu Buhari he talked about a very important topic where it was tagged silencing the guns, talking about the insecurity and terrorism across different parts of Africa.
Africa can only grow beyond what it wants to grow once there is peace. But if there's
I'm
no
actually
peace,
looking for the next year already, because it's one celebration that we ought to have it big, but we've not really seen it that big from this part. I think May 25th is being set aside to celebrate Africa